welcome you again to Clare Connelly to the podcast, and give us some sort of idea of what the course that you guys have created offer to self-publishers, because we've already discussed the talk with or the course with Ali regarding the writing love, the try to remember the exact title of it.
How to
You tell
self-publish
me.
and sell.
There
So
we go.
there are three. So Ali will have already told you, but for anyone who's missed her episode, Ali Blake, Jennifer St. George, Amy Andrews, and I have been longtime friends, brought together through the Romance Writers of Australia. All of us love romance, similar stories where we've all started reading from a young age and have written, and between us we've sold over 10 million books easily. So the idea for us coming together initially to form the How to Write Academy was to do a really comprehensive How to Write Love course where we would focus on the romance writing, because it's one of those things that I think a lot of people presume is going to be easy, and it's actually not. And it's a delight to have broken down what we have all learned in our however many books we've written between us, a lot, and teach that course. But it's also the pathways to publication is something that we cover in that course. We touch on it quite briefly towards the end, where we talk about self-publishing versus traditional publishing, how to write a synopsis, how to approach an agent, how to weigh up what's right for you. But we knew, even as we did that course, given all of our different backgrounds and experiences with publishing, that it was a subject that required or warranted a little bit more of a deep dive. And of course, self-publishing is something people are very interested in. I think a lot of people, I read a statistic the other day, and much like my quote, I can't remember it, but the number of people who self-publish and they just self-publish one book because it doesn't work, because they go in with no real strategy, no real idea what they're doing. And while that did work for me in 2014, it was a different marketplace. I know, looking back, even though I didn't know a lot, I know the things that I actually did very well. And so I think that for most people, you need a bit of background in self-publishing to understand the market, and also not to go in blind. It's a lot of work. If you want to do it well and you want it to be a full-time job, there's a lot behind. It's not just that you write a book. You have to become a publisher as well. So you have to be prepared for that. So the course is really a breakdown of what is actually involved in self-publishing, the real nitty-gritty, all of the considerations like covers, pricing, title, blurb. Are you going to be Amazon exclusive? Are you going to go wide market? Will you do paperbacks? How to find people if you're going to have covers designed. How do you find your editors? Are you going to go into translation? All of the things that you need to consider, your social media presence. So I got my start in self-publishing, but we have this amazing array of experience between us that we all bring to it, with branding. Like Ali Blake is such a branding expert. Jen St. George is like a marketing guru. She launched Guinness in Russia. She's just phenomenal. Amy Andrews does social media like nobody else. All of us are dyed-in-the-wool romance readers and writers. So there's a lot that the course covers, with the hope that when people finish it, they are more knowledgeable about self-publishing and ready to get their book out there in a more professional package.
I hands up. I have actually done the course. Another sort of admission is that basically I turned up to GenreCon in Brisbane, and you got your goodie bag, and I didn't even look at it. I may have looked at the brochures and stuff like that, but yeah, got back at night, threw everything out on the table, and saw this little like card in there. I thought, oh, what the hell is that? And it's like, you've won a course.
Amazing.
And I'm like, yeah, right. I guess everyone got that. And the next day I went in and asked people, and they're going, no, we didn't get one. I'm like,
so
I actually did win a course.
Oh, wow. Well, yes. Amazing. Well done.
Well, I didn't have to do much. I just picked up the bag. It wasn't exactly a hard task. So yes, I have been through the course. Obviously, having at the point of doing the course, there was a lot of points during it where I'm saying, "Yep, I know. I just need to find the time."
Yeah,
because it's as you've said, being a self-published author is not just writing books, it's that you are actually a publisher as well. And so much of your time is taken up by that. But then if you're also doing a full-time job, things fall by the wayside.
Yeah. Oh,
You know?
absolutely. And I think that's it. With the course, it's definitely pitched to people who have not got experience with self-publishing and they need the overview, because it can feel,
Mm.
it's such an enormous thing to contemplate. And I get that. I get it a lot. I get a lot of people coming up to me and saying, what do I do? How do I do this? Because but it's such an enormous thing to explain that we really wanted to break it down and make it easy to understand, and hope that people can also come away going, is this something I want to do, or would I rather submit my manuscript to a publisher and have them do all of this? With that being said, I think it's quite empowering, because I think the way we break it down really does make it quite easy to understand and pick where you'd like to pitch it. I mean, we talk about, there's a lot that you can do yourself, there's a lot you can outsource. It really depends on the situation that you're in.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, but also, there are some people who've self-published and aren't seeing a success that's representative of their book's quality. And so the course, we hope, will help those people look at, how can I break this down and change what's not working for me?
yeah.
I mean, I saw someone the other day post a cover of their book. It was really well designed cover, but it will not speak to their readers. It was not right for their genre. They were genre hopping, and it might have worked in their old genre, but I just know it's not going to appeal to. So it's that kind of thing of, how do you know where to get advice? How, what can you change if it's not working? So
Yeah, yeah.
I've,
And
I've got a question about one of your points in terms of what are some of the topics that you cover on the course. And one of the very first ones is about developing a business strategy. So what would be some of your key takeaways or key advice for, say, if someone came to you and said, oh, look, it's all pretty easy these days. I can just bang up a PDF file up on Amazon and put together a snazzy cover and sit back and watch the dollars roll in. Clearly
doesn't happen.
yeah, look, clearly it's not that easy. And there's so much to it. So in terms of starting with a strategy, and what would be some of the key sort of takeaway points that you would say to a person who's thinking about endeavoring into self-publishing and not only just self-publishing a book, but embarking on a writing career in that field?
And that's
Obviously, you need to do the course. You know,
well, I was going to say, we cover that
sign up to the
extensively.
course first. But
But
carry on. Sorry.
no, but that's a key difference too. You need to know what you want to get out of it. Is it that you have written your memoir or the work of your heart, and you would like to see that available for people to buy, and you don't care if it sells 5 copies or 50 or 500, so absolutely knowing what your goals are going in. But in terms of business strategy, if we presuppose that everybody who does the course wants to become a full-time commercially successful writer, how am I going to achieve that? Where does my book sit on shelves? What are its competitor titles? How many books can I write a year? How am I going to release them? If I can only write 1 book a year, am I going to release it as 1 book, or am I going to break it into 3 smaller books and release them? There is just so much to look at and think about. Am I going to set my books up for pre-order as a long series over the year, or am I going to just drop and see how they go? When in the year am I going to reevaluate this? Am I going to go wide, stay with KU, paperback? There's a lot of research that you can do, and we do break that down in the course, as well as the course also is about getting the skills to keep analyzing and growing and learning, because of course it's a snapshot in time, so we can't cover absolutely everything. It's about giving you the skills to be able to build your business, which is going to mean constantly developing as a writer and a publisher.
And would you agree that there's no one strategy? It's about implementing multiple strategies, whether it be marketing, developing leadership.
Anyone who says do this and you'll be successful, I'm so skeptical of those courses, because there is no one way. What worked for me might not necessarily work for you. There are so many variables. It's going to come down to the quality of your writing, how you package your book up, where the readership is at that time. You may just happen to release a book that is right at that moment what people are looking to read, or you might write a fantastic book that no one's that interested in reading at the moment because you've missed the moment, or the moment's not there. So yeah, there is no one way to be a success, but there are ways to look at your self-publishing and give yourself the best chance.
Yeah. I think, I mean, my pathway to success is basically just hoping to chip away and eventually get there.
Yeah.
It's a case of, well, you know, if I write something which actually gets to the sort of heady heights of a publisher sort of tapping me on the shoulder saying we're interested in that, then I've then got a back catalogue of books that have already self-published, and any sort of like future success that I can actually get to means that I've got stuff waiting in the wings to then, you know, sort of sell to new people. Because at the moment, I find my biggest problem is marketing and getting my name out there, and you know, currently still doing a full-time job, it makes it really difficult to find the time to actually go out and do the marketing sort of grind and getting my name out and the like. So I'm hoping next year maybe that might change, but we'll see.
Would it be your dream to be published by a publisher then rather than self-publish?
No, I would rather, I mean, I'd rather be a successful self-published author, to be quite honest. You know, there is a certain, even now there is still that kudos of being a published author with a publisher behind you, but you do relinquish a lot of control over what your book looks like and the editing and everything else. And as I've mentioned, the whole sort of time process that gets dragged out. There was a talk at GenreCon where the guy was saying that he'd written the first draft and he finally got it published next year, and it was like something like 11 years. And my question was, did you not think of self-publishing? And he just didn't want to self-publish. That was it. Wanted to be, and it was at that point that I realized that I've published through Macmillan in the past, and got stung. I think I've mentioned this in other podcasts that I got stung because I had no clue about contracts. I had no clue about what I should be looking for, and little sort of things in the contracts meant that they could change whatever they wanted. And they basically did the dirty on me. And so I think that may be subconsciously something which I don't hanker to be publishing through a publisher. I'm quite happy. What I want is to actually get my books in front of a lot of people. That's about it.
And I think people are turned off having written a book of say 120,000 words. Some people feel that they don't want to self-publish it in case it sinks like a lead balloon. Unfortunately, that can happen no matter which modality you publish under. I mean, if the publisher is paid an enormous advance, then you can be pretty confident that they're going to put a lot of effort into getting it out there and making it a success. But it's, you know, for most people, especially in the landscape at the moment, there is a chance you'll sign a traditional contract and it will not have the figures, and then you've got your book tied up. So there is a lot to think about when you're looking at publication.
And I guess sort of heading towards one of the points that we're going to head towards in terms of how to be your most productive self, that I'm interested to hear what you've got to say about that. But I guess for most people going into this writing gig, we've all had to start with having a day job. And, you know, we all work towards being able to, to retire and focus on writing as a career. Very few get to experience that. But I guess everyone has to start with, you know, juggling everything. You're still having to put food on the table and feeding your family, and still having to have a full-time job where you're moonlighting and doing this passion, secretive passion for many people. And trying to find that time to do all the things that Harry's talked about that are very challenging when you do work full time, and trying to put yourself out there and market yourself and write and everything like that. So in terms of your comments around how to be your most productive self, what do you mean by that? And what are some tips?
So when I self-published my first book, and it was not the first book I'd written, I had a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. So while I wasn't working full time, I was a full-time stay-at-home mum. So I was mired in that wonderful, exhausting phase of life, which is a huge part of what drove me to write, or really write in earnest, because we'd moved to Adelaide. I didn't have a built network of support here. And I found the escapism of writing just so important to my mental health as a mum to 2 very small children who would go, and one of them didn't sleep at night, and one of them, you know, was energetic all day. So I learnt at the coalface to make every minute at the computer count, because I basically had their nap window in the day as my writing time. They were good nappers, admittedly, and I would fiercely protect that time. But I was also very determined to make it work. So I would have a word count goal in mind for the day. And if I didn't hit it in their nap target, the second my husband got home from work, I would go to our bedroom and I would write, even if I was exhausted, or I would wake up early the next morning and I would write. So I was quite hard on myself because I felt that I really wanted to make a go of this. And this was my opportunity, because I knew how much harder it would be once I went back to my old job, which I loved. But I felt like this was an opportunity when I was home with the kids. And it's not for everybody. I mean, it was hard work. I'm not saying that everyone who's at home with children should try to start writing books, because it's exhausting and difficult. And it was just my passion and what I felt that I needed to do. And through that, though, I became a very effective, efficient writer, because I could not, time really was of the essence. I literally had ticking time bombs in the bedroom next door. So from that, I've learned it's a very different situation now. My children, bless them, are 14 and 12, and they are out at school all day. They do after school activities, so I have a lot more time. So I still actually set myself a ticking time bomb where I work in 1 hour work windows. So I set an alarm on my phone, everything goes into flight mode. And for that 1 hour, I essentially race myself to see how many words I can get down. I know for other people, the Pomodoro method is really effective, but for me, 1 hour, it goes like that. I really, I'm looking at a sign, 2 signs above my desk. One says, write the story, fix it later. And the other says, see it like a movie, atmosphere, character, tension, and heart. So those are the things that I really want to encapsulate in each story that I write. But when I write, I do tend to see it like a movie. So I'm really just transcribing what's playing is the way that I write. Yeah.
I guess it depends on how you frame it too, whether you consider your writing time as precious as it might be. Do you treat it as leisure time that you actually enjoy it and love it? There's always going to be those days that it feels like a chore as well, and you almost feel like you're punishing yourself by doing an hour of writing. But I guess if you can somehow reframe your attitude towards writing, that it feels less like a chore and more like leisure time.
Yeah. I mean, again, for me, I genuinely do love it, but I think that's because I very luckily get, I only write books that I absolutely love and I'm so excited to write. Perhaps it's that they're 50 to 55,000 words, so there's not really an opportunity to lose too much faith with them, though I do go through that rough middle part. But yeah, I think too, when it is your full-time job, you have to force yourself, even if I always look forward to writing. There are definitely days when I'd rather do something else, or I just don't feel like sitting in my office. It's a beautiful day. I'd rather go for a walk, or I'd rather do this. Or I've got admin tasks piling up that I know I've got to get to, but you have to juggle. So the way I structure my writing year is if I'm in a writing week, I do very little admin. I focus almost exclusively on my book. So that's my week. I've got to make every minute count that I'm writing.
And what sort of word count? You said you set yourself a word count within your nap time. What sort of numbers were we talking about here?
So I'm an outlier. I don't think everybody should aspire to write how I write, but in a 1 hour work window, I write between 3,000 to 4,000 words. And I do, when I'm in a writing week, I'll do minimum of 3, probably about 3, I'd say on average per day, writing windows. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
No wonder you've done 100 books.
Yeah. But then I don't do that every week. I couldn't do that every week. It's just how I'm quite monastic in how I approach things. So I get very obsessed with my story and I have to keep it at the front of my mind. And when I'm writing, those people become my real world. And so having to be out in this world is very unappealing to me. And that's not a successful recipe to having friends and family who love you. So I try to be in that space as little as possible. And then I come back out and I have, admin and catch up time. And then I get back into another story.
So is there the same sort of need for research with a romance?
Depends where you're setting it. There is, but definitely again, for me, speaking only for my romances, no, I tend to write from experience, and I will research things as I go, but I don't research when I'm in a work window. I just, if I need to, I'll just put a little cross on my manuscript and come back to it.
Right. Okay. Sorry, Derek.
I was just going to make mention of the point. I could see, Claire, how your face lit up when you talked about, you love writing. And I think that really that boils things down to me in terms of putting things into perspective. Why do we do this crazy thing of writing? And I think inherently we all do it because there's something inside us that drives us. And as you said, if you're excited about what you're writing and you're passionate and you love the story that you're telling because it's the sort of story that you want to read, hopefully that, that those work windows, which I really like that idea, it's far more productive because you're so more excited about what you're writing. Another point I wanted to look at, there's something you've said about leaning into the parts of your writing career that you love and working out how to manage the parts that you don't, sort of balancing productivity. And again, sometimes we can get so caught up into research and going down those YouTube rabbit holes, or the Google rabbit holes, because it's just another excuse for procrastination. So how do you kind of manage that? Leaning into the things that are working, that are productive, but also managing the more business ends, the more difficult parts of what you need to do, and not just focusing on the fun stuff. That you got to do the business stuff as well.
That's right. So it's about having a list of all of the things that you need to do for your whole business. So anything from your tax considerations, so your accounting side of things, to your covers, to if you're getting your books translated, to managing editing deadlines, working out what you can do, what you're happy to outsource, what you can do but don't like doing, and therefore it's tipping your bucket in terms of creative energy. Some of that's a luxury. Someone at the start of their career might have to do a lot more than they want to do, and as long as they can do it well and put together a professional product. But it's just really, for me, so for me, I love doing the covers. I find that to be something that's like a different kind of creative energy to writing. It's I'll often do them in the evening when I'm watching TV, or like I said, in an admin week or whatever. But it's just not, it's not forcing yourself to do the things that yes, you're right, you do have to do some of the boring bits, but as much as possible, it's working out what can you get off your desk, especially if you're working at the same time, to leave you free to focus on your writing or the parts that you do enjoy that are going to make it easier to sustain the career long term.
Do you think with so many books under your belt, do you think there's any risk of becoming formulaic in your writing?
No, and I don't. I mean, I think romance is formulaic only in the sense that it's a love story with a happy ending, in the same way that a crime story is a whodunit with a whodidit. It's that the readers come into these books with an idea of what they're going to get, but that's all it is. Once they dive into the story, it's every character is different, the setup is different, the conflict is different. And I can honestly say I've never written two books that are similar, because it's all about the people. And I love coming up with very different characters and the way those characters connect. And that sounds ridiculous because I write pretty much exclusively alpha billionaires, but they are all different, right? They've all got different ways that they achieved where they're at in life, that different backstories, different past traumas. And so, I mean, never say never, but that just doesn't enter my mind. And it's like a tinderbox to me when I get an idea, and I just know as well. So something that you learn the more you write is, does this idea have legs? And now I know when it catches in me like a fever, it's just like the spark of an idea, and I go, that's a good one. Like that's it. And I get the goosebumps, and then I just sit down and I don't plot, but I write my character thoughts, pen and paper, because I find that engages a different part of your brain.
Okay.
And I will just sit there in like a trance for however long it takes me. And then heaven help anyone who tries to stop me from starting that book the next day.
It's that sudden.
Once it's there and alive inside of me, I am in the fever, and the only way to get through it is to write the book.
It sounds like you're very prolific in terms of putting ideas to paper. Sometimes I get to a point of, once I've finished a novel, it's almost like I have to go and give my brain a rest. And it takes a while to, like, I'm in that phase now. I finished writing a manuscript a few months ago, still going through editing. But rather than leaping straight into something new, I'm giving my brain time to think of, before I commit, what's the next story going to be? Is it going to be a next part 2 of this current series, or what's it going to be? But as you say, sometimes if that bug bites you, that idea is there, boom, you want to get straight into it. But I guess that's where I kind of struggle. I have that writing fatigue at the end, and then it's about picking yourself back up and starting again, because you know what's in store for you, and how hard a job it is to complete that manuscript, and regardless of the word count. So do you find that you are able to transition from end to start, between books quite quickly because those ideas are burning?
I can, but I also don't like to. So I feel like you, especially because they're so cathartic, these stories, that I've never written one that didn't pull my heart out at the end. So I do absolutely like to take a break. Sometimes my schedule doesn't allow it, and that's the only time where I do feel that it's not 100% pleasure. There's an element of me going, oh God, and I'll look at my word count, and it'll be at, say, 1,500 words, and I'll squint and go, maybe it's 15,000. Nope, I'm still so far away from that. So yeah, I agree. I think that to give yourself the time to kind of shed the old story and ideas and the themes, so that you don't, for me, so I don't risk repeating them. I like to write a very different trope set up after I've written one trope. I don't want to write another marriage of convenience book after I've just written one. It is having that breathing space. I think I'm 4 weeks since I wrote now. I've been doing a lot of admin and catching up, and that's been amazing. Yeah.
Taking a break.
Yeah, taking a break, but also I know what book I'm writing next, and I've been holding myself back from, I know the basic setup, but I've stopped myself from doing my pen and papering, because I know when I do, I'll have to start, and it's school holidays here, so.
And
so you've got this idea sitting there, but you don't want to start writing notes, because
it's just loosely
it'll crack the dam.
Yeah, exactly.
As a self-publisher, when you know that your manuscript is ready to go, it's ready to go live, as you say, you may have already developed your cover to give you that goal to aim for, that drive. I've formulated the idea, and I've got the cover already designed, which I think is a great idea. So at what point, I assume you're working with editors or maybe beta readers, and at what point do you know it's ready to go?
Oh gosh, that's a really good question. I do work on pre-orders for my self-publishing, so I know when it has to be ready to
go. Just slightly different.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess I actually write what I would consider a pretty solid first draft. So as I'm writing, I'll know if I've written myself down the wrong road, and even though it's hard, I will stop writing, and I'll come back and maybe delete 2,000. Although I never delete. I always have a document called cuts, and I'll
absolutely,
because it's hard work to kill your babies.
Don't do that. Never kill your darlings.
Can't do
Save them. Copy paste.
But I generally, I've got a really good team of beta readers, and as long as I get great feedback from them, and they're very honest, and not all of them always love my books, but as long as enough of them do, I feel pretty confident with that. And as long as I love it, honestly, like I really am writing for myself as my first reader. Like I write the stories that I passionately love. And so if the biggest thing for me is having enough room in my schedule to put the book aside for enough of a period of time that I can come back to it with objectivity.
Yeah.
Because then if I read it and I get a tummy knot, I'm like, it's great.
Yeah. I was literally just about to ask, do you use beta readers when you mentioned it? And what you say you've got a good team. What numbers are we talking about of the beta readers as a good team?
So I've actually got, I probably have about 100 people in my Facebook group, but I have about 4 who get it before anybody else, and who have read my books for years and read all of my books, which I don't even know if I've read all my books. No, I have, of course I have. But and so they know how I write, and they know what I'm about and what my promise is to my reader, and so they are an incredible asset. Yeah. Yeah, and they're honest. They're honest, and that's important too. Don't get your mum to read your book and only her feedback.
I mean, obviously, let your mum read your book, but
my mum doesn't read my book.
No,
I don't
let
my mum read mine. No.
But it's a case of I have about 8 people who basically go, you know, my beta team, and yeah, they sometimes they love it and sometimes they don't, and you always listen to them, because, you know, if something doesn't work, you've got to make those changes, because you know, you're getting this small subset of people who are willing to read earlier drafts. Use that expertise, use that knowledge, and use that sort of like feedback to guide you, because it's always difficult as a creative to have somebody say, nah, doesn't work. But
yeah, it's like one of the things, if you're going to do your own cover or get one off a cheaper website, find a Facebook group, the more brutal the better, and put it in there, because it's better to be torn down by a few people in a private Facebook group than it is to get awful reviews, or worse, have your book just sink because the cover doesn't talk to your readers. You know, getting good, honest feedback, and knowing when to listen to it, knowing when not to. Sometimes I have ignored the feedback because I've thought, no, I really like it, or I've seen sometimes I think the feedback isn't necessarily that. They might say that they feel something, and I will go, I think it's because of this, though. Like, you think this hero is being really mean in this scene, but what it is I haven't actually made him sympathetic enough for him to get away with that. So I don't need to tone him down in that scene. I need to go back and feather out his backstory sufficiently so that you feel sorrier for him, that you're willing to put up with more from him. So, you know, it's that it's kind of just decoding the feedback too.
And that's all part of the editing process, you know, that's sort of tweaking and making the extra layers in your book, especially if you pantser large proportions of your book. Having that sort of like layering is the editing process. And you know, I initially I hated the editing process, and then eventually I realized actually it's essential, you know, to give the book more depth.
Oh yeah, those editorial notes, they can be, you know, they're a glass of wine job.
And Claire, part of your writing academy, I saw manuscript assessments is another service that you and your team offer.
Absolutely. So we do one-on-one author coaching all round. So we can do hour-long conversations with people who would like to talk about their author career on the whole and do some author planning. We do manuscript assessments, that tends to be Ali and Amy, who are both so great at that. So there are different package options available, whether it's that you would just like your setup looked at, so to say the first 3 chapters and the synopsis, so you're getting ready to publish, as in go to submit to a publisher. So they'll do that to make sure, because as you know, the beginning is just so important, having it be really hooky, tight, having characterization be down pat, the setting. So they also do full manuscript assessments, which is reading the whole book and coming back to you with really amazing, detailed, constructive feedback for how to tighten it, what works, what doesn't work. Yeah.
And where can people find out about your courses?
So if you go to howtowriteacademy.com, you will see all of the information, and you can find us on socials with How to Write Academy.
Excellent. And yourself, your website?
Yes, clareconnelly.com, and that's 2 N's and 2 L's, and I'm on social media everywhere as @ClareWritesLove.
Okay.
And I think the important sorry, Harry, I was going to say the important point to cover here is we've only just really dipped our toe in the water in terms of this whole thing of self-publishing and everything else that's linked to that. So clearly what we've discussed here is just a tiny bit of so many topics and considerations and strategies. Obviously, that's what your course is about. It's about breaking them down into its relevant topics to really provide that to step people through it in far more detail than we could ever achieve in a casual conversation like this.
That's right. I'm so proud of the course we did. With both of our courses, we wanted to put something out there that we felt would genuinely help people. So we, that was so important to us. And so both of our courses are actually, with the How to Write Love, it's a 12-week course. This is a 3-month course, because there's a shocking statistic about the number of people who subscribe to online courses and then don't do them. And we didn't want that. You know, we don't just want you to buy a course and not do it. We really care. So with our courses, we've got ongoing support, interaction. We're always there. It's very much something that we're passionate about helping people with. And our next How to Self-Publish course actually starts 1st of August.
There you go.
Coming up.
Coming up.
Yeah.
I'm not sure when this podcast drops, but it'll be before then.
Or maybe it's just started.
We'll do our best to get this out so we can encourage people to sign up for that course for sure.
Amazing.
It's been lovely talking to you, and thank you for providing a course to aspiring authors that they can sort of start learning how to actually become a self-published author. Thank you very much for coming along onto this onto our little podcast.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks so much for having me, guys.
And congratulations, Claire. Looking at the material and the product that you've created, it's so professional, and absolute kudos to you and your colleagues for producing this wonderful resource for writers. So well done.
Thank you so much. Thank you.